Oh, banana. Good morning, everybody. This is Walk the Dog with Riot Mort, and it is Wednesday at 5:30 a.m. And I played Donkey Kong last night, if you couldn't tell from that opener. The new Donkey Kong game is pretty good. Pretty good. I'm not going to say it's like the greatest game of all time or anything like that, but very, very solid game. It's definitely got, Mario Odyssey with a bit of a twist. Generally very charming. So a lot of fun. It is definitely addicting to just sit there and like destroy the level. That is a very fun cycle, very satisfying. Meaningless, but satisfying. So far, it's funny. A lot of these games, I loved Breath of the Wild. I loved Mario Odyssey, and I'm liking this game a lot too. One of the design problems I've seen with games like this, though, is that what they do, it's a good design pattern, right? Like, let's say you have a world. We'll just say, world one in any of these games. It's like they will hide 50 things, right? In DK, it's bananas. In Odyssey, it was the moons. Whatever. They'll hide like 50 in a level. And I love this because it's like you're not meant to find all 50, but like you will stumble upon like 20 to 30 as you play the game naturally. And it feels good. And like which 20 to 30 you find will be a different experience than somebody else who plays the game. And so you'll each like, oh, did you find this one? Oh, no, did you find this one? That's cool, And it creates a really interesting version of the game where everyone's experience is different. And that's neat. I really love that about Breath of the Wild. Like, when I was playing Breath of the Wild, the order I did things was different than the way other people did it. And that was great. But I actually feel like these games fall apart when you start trying to 100% them. Like trying to 100%, like I saw a couple people on Twitter have already done this, but it was like 100% these collectathon games, or in like Breath of the Wild's case, it was the Korok seeds. It actually just becomes tedious, and it's like sitting there scouring for every little single piece of a thing actually just becomes tedious. And so my advice was always like, if you're playing Breath of the Wild, do not try to 100% it. It's an amazing game until you try to 100% it, then it's just mediocre, And so that's my hot take for the day, by the way, is that these games are absolutely amazing upon completion. Just don't 100% them. So there you go. There's my hot take. But overall, I'm enjoying it. Like, could I sit down to work at 7 a.m. today? Yeah. Might I sneak an hour or two of Donkey Kong instead? Yeah. So it's definitely fun enough that I'm gonna keep playing, and so I'm loving the game. So anyway, in other news, today is branch cut, which means it's the last day for the team to make any easy changes. So whatever Tim announces today is like the culmination of that team's hard work. They did a great job trying to get everything ready, and then everyone can play PvE and see what's probably going to go live. There will be one more A patch next week, and then that'll be it. KO Coliseum will go live, and we'll see how it all landed. So pretty exciting. Like I said, I definitely had a lot of fun playing it last weekend on stream. I'll play it this weekend on stream as well. Definitely some challenges with the set, though, that's for sure. So we'll see. So there you go. Speaking of which, there's some questions. I'm going to actually spoil a change today when we talk about our questions. So, haha. Because, yes, again, I shouldn't be, but am I peeking at, like, the change log and seeing how they're doing? Yeah, of course I am, because I'm an addict and TFT's in my blood, so, Well, it's on my arm, at least. All right, first question. Oh, yeah, here's we go. We'll start right away. All right, thoughts on the assassin power-up? Okay, so assassin, remember how I said, like, I don't lead, I'm not a dictator. I don't lead by, like, my word is law, I have my beliefs for the game, and other people on the team have their beliefs for the game. And one of the things that sometimes I get accused of is being a little to take all the fun out of the game, right? One example of this is I was one of the people who pushed really hard to, like, not really have support champions, because I think support champions do pretty bad things to team building as well as permutations of champions and lead to lack of replayability, as well as like baiting you into playing champions with items that shouldn't have items, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Assassins is another one of those examples. I have this, Riot asks you to always like framework your designs. I have this belief that if somebody's main carry dies in the first 5 seconds of combat, we've done something wrong. And not everyone agrees with this statement. Some people believe that like that's really hype to have like the right things. And to give you an idea, I've been pretty lax on this because, I'm like, well, in special cases, maybe it's okay. Like, having 6 assassins jump to your backline and instantly kill all your carries, I still do not believe it's okay. But something like Spectral Cutlass, for example, some of you might remember a game I played on stream where I had like, I forget which champion was, but it was, Spectral Cutlass Shaco. That's what it was. It was Spectral Cutlass Shaco, and I would just appear on the back line and go, boop, Urgot's dead with these like 500 auto attacks. Or, Neferi was doing that for a while last set. And it's like, well, Mort, doesn't that technically break your framework? And I was like, well, yeah, because it requires an artifact, it requires pretty deep investment, and you only get 6 seconds of it, and like there is counterplay with like which side you're on and positioning. And so like Spectral Cutlass felt like the most acceptable version of the assassin concept to me. Well, again, not everyone agrees, right? Some people are like, no, we got to get assassins back in the game. And so, a power-up got added that is assassin. And you remember, this isn't the first time like we've tried this, right? Like the anomaly system had assassins, for example. I don't know if you guys remember, but for a while it was either during PBE or during development, there was an assassin anomaly that we ended up pulling because I was not really a fan of what it did to the game. Well, fast forward, and I think the thing that I'll say, trying to be as constructive as possible here, is the reason this version ended up not working was specifically because the timing didn't have that like set 4, set 5 timing that we had finally perfected, where the jump happens first and then the movement happens. Because back when that was true, you could at least do the corner strategy, right? Where you would put your like tanks in the 3rd row, your carries in the 4th row, surround them, and they would catch the assassin. This version was very set 1 assassin, where like everyone's moving at the same time. And so that Darius would just end up behind your carry, no matter how you positioned. You could jam everyone into the corner, and guess what? They're still going to end up back there killing everything. So that to me was like a pretty big miss. I think if that had been fixed, it might have been a little better. But the other thing too is that, and Kent and I were talking about this very briefly, is that the fact that it is part of a hidden system means it's pretty hard to predict and scout for, right? Like you're in the middle of a game and all of a sudden it's like 4-3 and wait, there's an assassin in the lobby? What the hell? Like that will catch you off guard. Whereas if an assassin was part of a trait, for example, you sort of expect it, right? You're like, at any given point, someone could be playing assassin. But it being hidden within the system is pretty rough. So the combination of those two things, to me, make it pretty stressful. And again, we know through years of experience, this is not a surprise, that having your carry die in the first 6 seconds of combat, not very fun. In addition, one of the things that does that I think is also not really great is that one of the fantasies we have supported is the like big tank, right? This is the 10,000 health Cho'Gath or the cooking pot Mundos of the world, right? Like I make a big tank and that's awesome. Or Golemify, right? Like we support pretty strong front lines. Who cares if you have a front line? That's another thing that, like, and there's this fine line between, we can't have every fight be front to back, but every fight that isn't front to back nullifies the existence of tanks and turns the game into who can build the biggest glass cannon. So there's a weird counterbalance there. And if we deviate too far from front to back, then you end up in that world. And so, while I do agree philosophically that we shouldn't have every fight be front to back, I think we have to be incredibly picky about where that non-front to back comes from. Now, Kent and I were debating this very lightly, but do I think that Zed and Akali are actually that healthy? And my answer is yes. Yes, it just puts those characters on a timer, but I actually think the inevitability of the timer, it's like, okay, Zed has hit my carry, and now my carry's at 60%. And after 3 more casts, Zed will kill my carry. I actually think it's healthier. I think that's much healthier than just, the Shaco on the back line that autos you twice and you're gone. Because at least during that time where the Zed timer is ticking down, my carry still gets to do things. And I know it was because they played Zed, who doesn't have the highest DPS, So I do think that is the healthiest version. But I get it. We can't just keep shipping Zed Akali every set either. So it's an interesting conundrum. But the TLDR of this is, would I ship the assassin power-up? My answer is no. And if you put a gun to my head and said you must ship it, how would I do it? Well, what I would do is I would actually say it's only available in stage 2. You have to commit to it. And so if you commit to the assassin power-up, everyone in the lobby in stage 2 might lose a round to it, but then they know you have it and can play around it for the rest of the game. And I would fix it to have set 4 style, where the jump happens first, and then your characters start moving so that you can position around it. If all of those things were true, then I would ship it. Though I will say props to the team, by the way, for that lever. I do really love the lever they added, where it was, X% less damage for the first few seconds of combat. Now, that being said, a Darius 3 doing 20% less damage is still going to kill your backline. But I do actually think that was a very creative lever. So I'm happy with that. Now, here's where I get to spoil there a little bit. When Tim posts his patch notes today, guess what the team already decided on their own, without any input from me? They're pulling the assassin power-up. So, and again, I actually have no problems with them trying something during PvE, learning from it, and then going, we decided we didn't like this. We're going to pull it and take those learnings for next time, right? This is what I've been saying, is that getting that type of experience is important, and it will help inform your future decisions. And it's one of the good things about me leaving the team, is that they're going to be able to get that type of experience now without me just interjecting my experiences and going, this is already the way it was supposed to be, et cetera, et cetera. That is a good thing for them. And I think, the people who worked on this in the future will take those learnings from Assassin and how players responded, and when they're making a future set, if they want to try this again, they'll improve that. And so that's how we become better game devs, is we try something, we implement it, we learn from it. And yeah. So yeah, there you go. That's how I feel about it. So there you go. I actually talked about that one longer than I thought I would. So. Okay, next one. How do you playtest? And this person was specific. This was a very long typed question. But the general idea was, how do you playtest? What's in the playtests? And, because for example, with Roles Revamped, I said it had been in progress for a while. And they were asking, so many bunnies. they were asking, well, like, did you play test set 13 with roles revamped or set 14 with roles revamped? How did that work? So the way it generally works is once a set goes live, we basically don't play test it. It's with rare exception, because a single, like, let's say we're working on patch 14.2 in Kobuko. Do we really play test Kobuko with like a group of 8 of us? Not really, because the amount you can learn in a single game playtest versus like put it on PBE for a second is just infinitesimally lower. Once the game goes live, there is little reason to do an internal playtest other than like something really extreme. An example of this would be like, well, no, that's not an example. I was going to say the double up cannon, but no, we didn't test that. Even the items, right? When we did the item reworks with like Ginsus and stuff like that. But we'd already been playtesting those in future sets. So no, we don't generally playtest a set once it goes live. Now, anything in the future, so let's say Roles Revamped, right? Roles Revamped is a good example where I think it was really playtestable right around the time, I want to say right around the time set 13 was done. What we do is we essentially create what are called flags. I'm trying to think of the exact term we use. But basically they're flags. And you can turn that flag on and off to make sure that that feature, feature toggle, that's what we call them. They put it behind a feature toggle. And that allows us to turn on or off that feature. So for example, there was a while where we were playtesting 15 with Roles Revamped, but not 16. Because we weren't sure that 16, like we weren't 1,000% sure that Roles Revamped was definitely going to ship. Now, don't get me wrong, very quickly we went, yep, this is going to ship. Took it off the feature toggle, no problem. But anyone on the team could work on a feature, keep it behind a feature toggle, and then you might not playtest it for that thing. And so, like the item reworks was another one that was like, we weren't playtesting it in 14, but we were in 15. And so it was on a feature toggle so that it wouldn't show up in 14's playtests. And we screw this up a bunch too sometimes, where it's like, you'll be playtesting 14 before it ships, and all of a sudden an augment from 15 shows up, and you're like, the hell? That's not right. Oops, forgot to put that in the wrong layer. Forgot to put that in the wrong feature toggle, so. But that's generally how it works. And then as far as how we playtest, like I said, it's generally 8 of us playing the game on a future set. And, like right now, well, I'll say a month ago, because right now is a little weird, but like a month ago, the team was playtesting 15 very frequently, 16 pretty frequently as well, although 16 is obviously in rougher shape because it's not done yet. And then we have not started playtesting 17 yet, though that's getting close. Given a normal development schedule, 17 would start being playtesting right about now, actually. So that's generally how it works. But again, those feature toggles allow us to sort of go, here's what we're going to do. And so let's say, and again, this is made up here, but let's say we were changing the health system in set 16 and we wanted to playtest 15 without that. Again, just put that health system behind a feature toggle. And so whenever we playtest 16, we just turn that on. No big deal. And so that's set up really well. Now, again, this took years of learning, right? The first few years of testing TFT would be like, well, I have to turn this off and then recompile and then redeploy the build with that feature on so that we can playtest that, and kind of a pain in the ass. And then that's where our engineering team or tech designers come in and help us build that feature toggle system so that in the future we can easily test this. And so now we've been using that for a few years. So yeah, that's where other teams can help us be more efficient at our jobs. So, well, yeah, that's kind of the gist of that. Otherwise, playtest is playtest. It's mostly there to just give you exposure to the game and let you know how it feels. So playtesting is important, though, to an extent. You always have to playtest with a purpose, and that purpose being, how can this playtest help me inform how the game could be better? Not just playing for fun or playing to win. Those type of playtests are easy for novices to fall into and often a waste of time. So there you go. All right. Are game warping encounters bad, or is it change aversion? And the example the person asking the question used was Kane. So here's the thing. Let's say you just finished a hard day's work, or for the youngins out there, your college courses, or you just got home and you're tired. You know what I would love to do? You know what sounds great? I would love to log on to TFT and try to hit a prismatic trait or hit a 3-star forecast. I want to log on and sort of play the game and get some of those really cool experiences that I like to chase after. All right, sweet. I've only got 2 hours, so maybe 2 to 3 TFT games. That's all I got time for. All right. So I sit down, I log in, I play my first game of TFT, and right away at 1-1, the game goes, hey, it's a Kane game. You're not going to be able to do any of that stuff you wanted because game's going to end on 5-2. Suck it up, nerd. That makes the player go, hey, this isn't what I signed up for. 98% of my games aren't this. I really didn't sign up for this. And that is the thing that we have to combat, is what is, the normal experience that a player signs up and expects? How far do we deviate from that is acceptable, right? So an example here is like prismatic augments. Some people are going to be like, hey, I didn't sign up for prismatic augments. I didn't sign up for these inflated games. But right now, I would say those inflated games happen 25% of the time? They're pretty common. And so currently, under our framework of what is a typical game of TFT, those fall under that umbrella. Those are still considered typical games of TFT. Yes, they're on the higher side, but they're still typical, right? Because a typical game of TFT can't literally be the median that is 3 gold augments, right? We build some variation into what a game of TFT is to some extent. But a game, imagine if we had an opening encounter that just said, hey, this game is hyper roll. Again, I think a lot of people would be like, no, I didn't sign up for this. This isn't what I've been trying to learn and master. Because TFT is also kind of like League and other games. It's a PvP competitive game. And that means players are trying to master their skills, whether it be that one comp that they're one-tricking and they want to learn how to master that, or figuring out how to play from certain positions, or just getting better at the game in general. And when you throw too big a curveball at them, they can't learn those skills anymore. They have to learn a completely different set of skills. And Kane's a good example here because the way you play a Kane game was very, very different, right? My tempo style becomes much, much better. Entire traits are invalidated, right? You can't play Cypher in a Kane game. It's just completely invalidated. How many times did we make fun of people for playing Fortune when the Kane encounter appeared, right? You just can't. And so my answer is, it's not change aversion. It's shaping what TFT's identity is in too extreme of a way that somebody who says, I want to play a TFT game, did not sign up for. Now you might be going, well, hey, that's pretty subjective, right? Aren't the Golem encounter, doesn't that qualify under this? And this is what I'm saying. The answer is, yeah, it could be actually, right? This is where game design is not a science. It is a subjective art, and everyone's line of what is okay is going to be different, right? A lot of our more competitive players, that line will be closer to the standard. A lot of our more extreme players who want the assassin power up in the game are also going to be I also want the Kane encounter in the game, right? no one's wrong here. It's a very subjective personal opinion. It's up to one person to figure out which one is the most beneficial for the widest group of our audience without ruining the identity for others. Which is why often I have to sit in this like middle of the road line, right? Like, you know, you've heard me say that when the golem encounter appears, I do not like it in my ranked games. When I'm playing ranked, I, want to win off the skill of my decision making, not necessarily being in an advantageous or bad position on 2-1. That is my personal taste. But as a designer, I know a lot of people in our wider player base actually love that. They love the like, hey, I get to play something I normally don't, which is why it has survived so long. It's like right on that line of transformative encounters. But obviously the people who don't like it are very vocal about it, and that's a tough decision to make. And, I'll tell you right now, if I made it more frequent, I would have challenger players yelling from the top of their lungs that we're ruining the game and ruining competitive integrity. And if I disabled the encounter, I would have people yelling at me that I'm being too hardcore focused, I'm ruining the game, and we're going to lose a lot of our audience, potentially even revenue, by making the game less fun, much like the Ginsu's change, right? And so definitely one of those times where it feels like there's a no-win situation. But for me, the win is, hey, it exists. It doesn't happen that often. And when it does, we try to make it work. And like, we've now changed prismatic traits to try to make sure that like that can still exist, So all of this is to say your question was TLDR. Is it change aversion? I don't think it's change aversion. I think it is subjectively what you agreed to, what you're looking forward to playing in TFT. And for a lot of our players, if you change the game too much, that's not what they signed up for. And that can cause them to churn away. So I don't think that's what it is. So there you go. All right, I'm going to do this question because it's quick. Wheel. That was the question. Now, to give you guys some background here, in my last stream, one of my mods, or the digital wheel that I normally use to spin, got cleared because when trying to fix the YouTube memory leaks on Chrome, I did the clear your browser cache and history thing. And in doing so, lost a lot of things, which was really annoying, including my wheel. So I have to remake my wheel. And in doing so, one of my mods suggested we get an actual wheel, which then became a thing when they found the 96-inch wheel. Yes, the wheel that is taller than I am. And so right now my mods are trying to convince me to buy an actual wheel. Now, we could easily get like a 36-inch wheel. No problem. That's like no big deal. But that doesn't make the joke work, and that's not very interesting. So my mods are literally trying to band together to get the biggest wheel that I would be allowed to get in my house. Now, 96 inches will not fit in my house. That literally will like not fit in my office. But 72 inches, 60 inches, those might fit. And the mods are even like, hey, you could just not pay us for a few months. We'll let you do that and use the money to buy a wheel. So we're actually like seriously investigating this as a bit of a shtick. And even my wife, when she heard that she could change what the wheel said so that we could use it internally for like chores or prizes or gifts around the house, she was like, oh yeah, get the wheel. So my wife is an enabler. She is an enabler. So look forward to that in the future. The answer is maybe. We might be getting a Mort Dog wheel because it'd be funny. We'll see. So the answer to wheel is probably. All right, it's 29 minutes. I don't have time for the last two questions, so we are out of time. Now, yesterday I was talking about how I needed to be productive That was not very productive. I really got to figure out a way to be productive. I don't know. It's not. I am definitely struggling a little bit. And again, it's weird because the new team is happy with me and the contributions I've done so far. But man, I do not feel useful. I feel so. Ugh. Now, again, maybe it's because I went from 200 to 70, and maybe 70 is fine given my knowledge and expertise, but it's not fine to me. I want to be running at like 120 to 150, and I feel like I'm running at like a 60 to 70 right now, which, ugh. But we'll see. We'll see. Today, my calendar is mostly empty, so I have no excuse other than my own inability to function on the task at hand. So that's what I got to work on today. Hopefully you guys enjoy. I know, again, Tim will post the patch notes for you. And again, that's PBE branch cut, so it's pretty exciting. And then behind the scenes, the team's going to start, this is right around the time where a lot of the sets team is going to take their time off to kind of recuperate before they jump on their next task. A lot of the finalization pod switches over to 16 and starts going pretty deep on the next set, which is so weird to think about, right? It's like most players haven't even started playing the current set, but time to switch over. But it is what it is. So, and I'll keep working on my thing and trying to find all the bananas because, banana. All right. That's going to do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.